What's going on, you loyal listeners? Thank you for tuning in to the L Squared podcast. I'm your host here, Luke Larson, and joining me today, not one, but two special guests. Old Legs, we don't really give a shit about him, but that was the voice of L Squared podcast, resident uncle himself, Uncle Chuck.
Uncle Chuck is back.
Woo!
He is back. Our resident uncle, our resident fellow chaos magician. What other titles do you have? Actually, current IRL accountant for the cartel. So he extremely topical and revered guest here today to discuss a triple frontier.
Right, because he is actually Ben Affleck's personal accountant. And
yes.
Ben Affleck was he was so taken aback by Uncle Chuck that he made a whole movie about him and starred as him in The Accountant.
Yes. So anytime, for the listeners, Chuck is our resident uncle. He's here to talk anything from the Uncleverse, from the Guy Ritchie-verse. Best believe you me, when Aladdin drops this summer, Chuck's gonna have some thoughts. I assume he'll be back.
I'm a big guy head. I'm a guy head.
Good Lord.
Yes.
I don't ever want to hear that again.
And even though it's not necessarily in the title, but if you read between the lines, this is you can actually see it. It's Uncle Triple Frontier, Triple Uncle Frontier. How do we want to?
Well, last time we were double uncles, right? They were double uncles, and now we've graduated, and we're finally triple uncles.
Triple Uncle Frontier.
Triple.
I mean, there's five guys, so.
Yeah.
One of them has a kid. There's got to be an uncle. There's got to be an uncle.
Charlie Hunnam, already of the Uncleverse.
Yep.
He's been there. King Arthur.
He's familiar territory.
Movie. One of the best movies of the last 10 years. We don't have to get into that, but
we're not.
So Triple Frontier. This is a big blockbuster. This is like a giant glass of bourbon movie, a metaphorical glass of bourbon is what I would describe it to. Like I actually I can relate with Red Fly, Ben Affleck's character, because
Why do you know his character's name?
Oh, I know them all. I've got some takes on the names.
Good Lord.
Yeah, I've got some takes on
I am not prepared for this.
Just like Red Fly's character, it doesn't feel normal unless he has a gun in his hand. Like that's how I feel when I don't have a fucking glass of bourbon in my hand.
Wow.
We're one and the same. So this is the Netflix thing. It came out. It's got a lot of big names. It's got a lot of big songs. It's the bravado, the heist movie.
Yeah.
It's got a lot of things going on. What do you guys think? What are our initial thoughts? Hype versus what we thought. I think for the most part people understand what it is. But yeah, let's just dive into it.
Yeah, what did you think going into it, Chuck?
I think the first 50 minutes is like the tightest, one of the best heist movies, special forces, army, white guy movies there ever, like pretty much ever. It's just like it's such a good heist movie, and then it morphs into like a survival band of brothers type of movie, and it's cool that you don't really see those movies being made by big studios anymore, and it's cool that Netflix picked this up, and I can see why it kind of got picked up by Netflix, because it's kind of a mixed bag when it comes to, I guess, like describe it just as a heist movie, but it is just a heist movie. But
because it's so much more.
Just like, yeah, it's just so much more.
I mean, they could call it Jungle Snow Heist, and,
right.
and that would have been
this is in my
explosion heist.
This is in my half-baked internet research, but the first iteration of the script that they were working on was called Single Frontier.
No, that's not true.
And they just kept going. They were like, wait, what about Double Frontier? And then they like came up with the whole like Bad Landing, and then it was like Triple Frontier. It is.
Wow, that was stupid.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I agree. This movie is really cool. Like I'm with you. Up until the heli going down, it is extremely tight. Because at that point, you're waiting. You're on pins and needles, waiting for something to go wrong. Because this is very, very much a one last job.
Yep.
Heist movie.
Getting the band back together.
Yep. It's leaning into all the tropes, and you're waiting. You're like, where is this going to go wrong? And there's some really good standout scenes, and then it morphs into that survival thing, which is okay-ish. But yeah, I agree. The first half is, I wouldn't change anything about it.
Yeah, going into it, I was expecting it to be just a big, dumb action movie, and, well, I saw it, and it was, I was like, this movie has no business being this good, and being, like, really this well thought out, and, like, this smart. Which is weird that I'm using that adjective, but there were just so many points in it where I was like, wow, that's actually a really good point, or like, that's pretty well thought out, or like, yeah, that seems kind of realistic in a weird way, like way more often than I thought I would be sitting back and saying that.
So that the realism, I wanted to kind of touch on that, and it's kind of like that. You're not really sure if that's work, but the characters are so confident with their actions that you're like, oh yeah, they like. Seems like that's how it works. Like, they're professionals, right? And I think that's a nod to something that the director J.C. Chandler does really well. Because the other movie that I've seen of his that I really like is All Is Lost. That's the Robert Redford joint. The Tom
Hanks one where I'm the captain now, and it's Tom Hanks.
Almost.
It's Forrest Gump, but as a pirate, and then okay.
Good. Go fuck yourself. In All Is Lost, there's like almost no dialogue. It's just Robert Redford sailing, and just shit just keeps happening to him. And you assume that he knows all of this shit about sailing, because I don't know anything, and he seems really confident.
Sure.
And you're just like, wow, this guy's an expert. Like, without really even knowing, like, you're not like fact checking anything this guy's doing. And I felt that same way here when they just kind of like roll with the punches type deal, and that was cool because they don't. There's never a moment where they're just like looking at each other. Oh, what do we do next? They just kind of got to look alive.
Yeah.
No comms, hand signals.
Yeah.
Secure the area. Like that's fucking cool. And I like that.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah, I think they really get by and like. Succeed with just that's what I kind of think a special forces guy would do in that situation.
Right.
You don't have to think about it at all, and just like the chemistry of the cast really helps with that too. Like those guys. The casting was really well, and the performance from Ben Affleck in particular is just
amazing.
I really liked where
it was amazing.
He's kind of the broken down. Ben Affleck.
Yeah.
His voice is cracking when they're tearing the money out of the walls and beat down.
That's like my favorite line. He's like, God damn it! Look at all this money. Look at all those loans. He's like, yeah, his voice cracks right there, and he like sounds like is kind of like a bitch.
Yeah.
But it's just like, oh, this guy's fucking him over, and he's like, just a couple more loans.
Yeah, you can't go back to selling condos, man.
Yeah. I literally I would give anything to see a touch overweight Ben Affleck trying to sell condos. Like, can we get that?
In real, just a full movie?
Incredible.
Yeah.
Yeah, just that.
Yeah.
It seemed, oh my God.
With those fucking gray New Balances that he was wearing when he walks out. Oh,
and
man.
he's got like the Jim Harbaugh, like, dad jeans on.
Oh, yeah.
And it's amazing. He grabs 2 beers out of the fridge, but then he immediately drives to the gas station and buy more beer, even though there was plenty of beer in the fridge.
Right.
Like, I love it. I love it. He's literally like, he's living moment to moment, man. Like, if he doesn't have a gun in his hand, he's just he doesn't know where the fuck he is.
Yeah.
Yeah. Incredible.
What did you guys think about, like, because this is something that stood out to me, and I was like, I wasn't sure, I'm still not really sure how I feel about it, but, like, the symbolism of the money as a character. Like, clearly it was this big deal, and then, like, they were so transfixed by it that they obviously, look at all, there's just a couple more loads. And it slowed them way down, and then, like, you know, it was, like, the logistics of, like, well, this money weighs way too much. Like, we can't carry all it, so they have to keep dumping shit, and then they, like, you know, they have to carry by pack, and then it's like, well, now we can only fill, like, what we can carry, like, the symbolism of, like, obviously greed is bad, and it weighs you down, and, like, to go, whatever, like, what did you guys think of the money as a character?
I mean, you know what else weighs you down? Having to make truck payments every month while trying to put kids into Harvard. Do you ever think about that? How many bullets have you taken this?
That's real dialogue. That's pretty close to word for word. That's from the movie.
This whole movie, I don't know. I have a couple different things that we can throw out at the end, but this movie really doesn't work without Ben Affleck. I was trying to think about it, the whole money thing, the going over the Andes. I was learning as I was going. I thought just like helicopters could just fucking fly to the sun, and they would like, like I had no idea. I was like maybe that's not even a thing. Again, it was like they were like, oh, like, yeah, we're not going to get over that thing. I'm like, oh shit, they're not going to get over. Like, I was learning as we go kind of thing. That was, yeah, it was all really good, really well done. Yeah, the money thing is interesting because they never really get into the different characters' motivations outside of Pope, Oscar Isaac, and Affleck, who has 2 kids to put through college, which, I don't know, is he trying to, like, bribe them into Yale? Like, is he with...
Right.
I mean...
I don't really understand that.
It's actually really funny. Like, I caught that on the second time through. Like, he's like, tell your kids to stop studying. Daddy's just gonna buy them into Yale, and it's like really actually kind of funny with like very
topical.
Yeah, the Lori Loughlin college scandal stuff going on right now. It's like, was that like a wink line? Because those lines were definitely before. Yeah, like Ben is like, yeah, my fucking kids, they don't know shit. I just cut $1 million check and UCLA. Yeah, but yeah, it didn't help that we weren't really sure most of the characters' motivations. Like the ones guys, like, oh, I'm gonna buy a Ferrari. Like Ben Miller, like I'm gonna keep pummeling people at high school USC events.
Right.
I don't know.
Those guys are
what did you think,
along
Zach?
for the ride. Yeah, I agree with you with the motivations, like the Ironhead and
yeah.
And Can I do my names take right now? Why doesn't Benny have a nickname?
No nickname.
Yeah.
No nickname.
I don't know. Is
That
it
is
like a
weird.
little brother thing? Is it like a...
So,
He's like...
Did
he
he-
doesn't get a nickname.
yeah, maybe he was like...
It's weird.
Did he not actually serve with them? Was he just that guy's little brother? Did they know him, but
No,
he didn't actually serve with
He
them?
definitely served with them because he... Throughout all the operations, they never missed a hide out together. So...
And
And you guys are way more up on this
especially-
dialogue than I am, that's for sure.
I mean, I've seen the first half of the movie like 4 times.
Why?
No, the last time I watched it, I was Google mapping how many miles it would be to fly east instead of west, like over the Andes, because I thought maybe that's just a better route to go. Like just like fly a little longer and like you don't have to go over that shit like low altitude. Like so yeah, I've been on the triple frontier grind. So
Wow.
come on, Luke.
Yeah, I am not prepared for this conversation.
I learned a lot about the Andes. Like, it stretches for 4,000 miles down the western coast. Like,
Can't go around it.
stuff. You can't go around it, no. It's not an option. I thought that was really... Yeah, go ahead.
Did it take place in Brazil? That they never really say the name of it. It is in Brazil?
Because they dropped off Pope's girlfriend in Peru, so I assume that they made the heist in Colombia, which is just north of Peru, right? Does that make sense?
That's kind of what I took away from it, but
Is that the triple
It's either
frontier that it's like the borders
They're going over
Colombia?
3... Right.
I don't know.
I think so. I never really got to the end of that, because it seems like not 3, but that's okay.
Yeah, like, is it like, does it mean like
South America?
If you
by
count
by
the
land,
first
by
frontier
air, and
is-
by sea? Is that what they mean by the triple frontier?
It's got borders of Peru, Brazil.
It's got to be
Colombia.
some kind of
That
term.
works out geographic. No, I don't know.
I'm looking it up.
It's only one border that they go over. If we assume that it was in Colombia, again, I'm not really sure
Okay,
where.
here we
L'Oreal
go.
was.
I got it. Google, bail us out here. Triple Frontier is the border area where Argentina and Brazil and Paraguay meet. An active South American center for contraband and drug trafficking and money laundering. A suspected locale for Islamic extremist groups.
Jeez,
Interesting.
So, there we go. So, Argentina,
Interesting.
Brazil, and Paraguay. And then...
All great soccer clubs.
Sure,
Yeah, it's all
why not?
coming together. It's all connected.
They form one monster soccer club.
Yeah,
Isn't that how soccer works?
pretty much.
Just pregnant pause.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's interesting. Where were we? I'm getting lost in
You were,
like, the
yeah, you were getting lost. We need to get you back on track. You got to start looking at your own maps.
We were
Find
talking
your way
about
back.
names.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're
okay.
hard out here.
Yeah, you guys definitely
we're
took
missing
the
the
hard
hard
out. It's the
Bad
only one
landing.
here. Like, just
Bad
a couple
landing.
more loads. Just a couple more tangents.
I can't wait. Like, no, I was thinking this. Like, I thought this like 100 times in my head, but like, God forbid I'm in a car accident. Like, just like looking over at whoever's in the car with you and be like, oh, bad landing. Like, just like totally calm. Like,
Bad landing.
Bad landing.
would that be bad?
I don't know. I mean, it depends who it was, I guess. If they understood it, but
Again, yeah, you gotta like take the time to like explain like your reference
right after
while
you
you're
make
in
it.
a car accident.
Like while the paramedics are like trying to cut the door off and get you out of there.
If us three are in a car accident or a plane or a helicopter, I don't know. Like, who knows where the Elsewhere podcast is going? But
Right. That could all be arranged with the Patreon page, guys.
Right.
Oh yeah.
Right. And God forbid I choke anyone out in the grocery store because I fucking hate grocery stores. But
Wow.
resonated with me the most. But yeah, I really want to say that line in a real life experience, and also I don't want to be in a car accident. So I'm trying to even out. I'm trying to appease my dark lords that I pray to.
Boy.
My tendencies towards Chuck knows where I'm coming from here. He knows if you wish for one thing, you're gonna get it, and it's gonna suck ass.
So they wished for the money and the wealth, and look how that turned out.
This is a great example of what happens when you wish something into existence.
So we talked about this on the last episode with the leprechaun. So whenever you have a wish, you need to call your lawyer. That's the first thing you're going to do.
Call your lawyer. Be like, thank you. I'm more than happy to make a wish, but I am going to consult with my lawyer, and then he will get back to you. And can I get your email address, Mr. Leprechaun? Thank you. Yes, we will be in contact. Because you don't want to just be like fucking throwing out wishes willy-nilly. It's
right.
I mean, I'm sure we'll see the same shit with Aladdin, Will Smith. It's like,
yeah, no doubt.
It's like, oh, I want to be able to dunk, and it's like, oh, dunk your head in fiery lava. Is that what you said? Like, it's like, like all of a sudden you're fucking dead.
I don't know how that's gonna be a Guy Ritchie movie. Like, how did he make that movie?
I'm telling you, man. Some guys they just fall up. They just keep falling up.
I didn't know Disney could afford him. You know.
That's true.
This movie probably cost like $2.5 billion.
$billion.
No doubt.
And Guy Ritchie probably got like $500 million.
So like here's a little bit of, I don't know if it's a hot take or not, but when they released that trailer, the first trailer, and I watched it, I gotta say I was like, this doesn't look like the worst thing I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah, it looks like just a Disney movie.
So I mean, that's maybe the first. That's maybe the first time I've ever said that about a Guy Ritchie movie.
I thought you were gonna follow up with like, but there's no but. You actually think it's okay?
No, the only but is that I've never said that about a Guy Ritchie movie before. That's the only but.
Interesting.
That's true.
Every other Guy Ritchie movie trailer I've seen, I'm like, wow, that could maybe be the worst movie ever made.
So, FYI, just so for the audience who's listening
the
right
loyal
here,
listeners,
Luke has never seen Man from U.N.C.L.E.
Still
ask him to show you his ticket stub. He can't do it.
He can't do it.
He can't.
Have you seen his earlier movies, though? Have you seen, like, Snatch and...
Locks,
yeah,
and
no, I have, but just for it, we got to create, we'll cut this out, but we got to create controversy. That's kind of how we, like, get this, that's how the wheels stay on, so I have seen them, but just for comedic sake, all of his movies are terrible. So, all right, this is the clean in.
Right. So you're like Skip Bayless when he talks about LeBron. Just like
exactly. Perfect analogy. Yes.
Bottom 5 player in the NBA. Just
maybe the worst of all time.
Not worth a roster spot.
Yeah, biggest draft bust of all time, LeBron James.
More or less, it's one of those things where it's sometimes. So, listeners, this is the thing that happens every once in a while where I tell him one too many times to watch something, and then all of a sudden he just becomes like immune to it. He's like, he turns into like one of those anti-vaxxer, like he's just like, never.
Wow, that's hurtful.
I won't do it. It happened with Alicia Vikander too. Like all of a sudden you were just like hard out on anything Alicia Vikander. You're like, no, like I can't.
Yep,
nope.
I took the hard out. I don't miss them. Yeah, it's a real problem. and I should probably, seek professional help. But there's just something in my psyche. It happens especially with TV shows. Now, that could be you, but it could also be like other people when they're like, hey, you should really watch this TV show. You might as well give that show the kiss of death for me, because I will probably never watch. I will. In fact, it's not even a probably. I will never watch it.
Kind of fucking piss me off sometimes, but
what's the number of recommendations where you cut it off? Like 1, 2?
Like from old legs, or just like TV shows in general?
No, just from anyone. Just
well, that's a good question.
Recommended more than once.
Like if they recommend something to me once, I'm gonna like try and slowly back out of the conversation, especially if it's a TV show. I just can't deal with it. So if they bring it up to me again, then like if they bring it up to me once, I'll like try and get out of it, change the subject, and walk away. And then maybe at some point I'll think to myself, you know what, I should actually just watch that. They don't have any expectations on me. I'll just do it. But if they come up to me again and they're like, hey, did you watch that? You need to really watch that. I will. That'll be it. I'll literally, the rest of my days, will never watch it.
When Luke and I talk about television, it's literally like it's like a chapter out of like a Frank Herbert novel. It's like something out of like Dune. Like each of us is like carefully like observing the other one's facial expressions and just like and monologuing in each other's minds. Like, oh, I got him. He raised his upper lip a quarter inch, like he's nervous about this comment that I gave. It's like mental warfare, and it's so fucking annoying. Like he just doesn't watch the fucking shows, and it pisses me off.
Hey, I have to live in this body, I have to deal with this mind, okay? It also pisses me off, all right?
Okay. We got to get back to Triple Frontier because we got one other subject to get to. I just want to. How about we just end it with? I have a couple nitpicks here and just kind of like highlights from it. Do we just want to kind of go through them and just anything that we wanted to mention from it?
Yeah, start us off.
First off, I'm going to go ahead and say that I think I'm an Ironhead. I'm an Ironhead William Miller, as I said earlier. I hate the grocery store. I'm totally with him there. I was definitely not a fan of lighting the fire. Once again, can't believe Mr. Affleck was just all of a sudden just like, yeah, fucking light it up. Like, who cares? Like, Mr. You want to leave 20 million laying in the jungle. I wanted to point out the musical selection. Chuck said that he was maybe a red fly, but I gotta say, you might be a pope, because I don't know anyone else who could potentially nap to For Whom the Bell Tolls, while also riding in an attack helicopter. Like, is there anyone else? I'm like, holy shit, that's Chuck. Like, Chuck's just like, he's hitting his like third like REM cycle.
That's a good point. I never thought about that. But that
was incredible.
Iconic scene,
So you may or may not be a pope. You just don't even know it.
I feel like
6 a.m. mass. That's crazy early.
Yeah, that is.
Right?
That is a little rough. I mean, I'm not one of you Catholic folk, but it seems a little early to me.
That's early as fuck. Oh yeah, back to the. This movie goes The Bell Tolls, The Chain by Fleetwood Mac, into Walk by Pantera, fucking No Nickname, Ben Miller walks out to. Hell yeah, that's fucking metal as shit. Into CCR, Revival Run.
Great use of like hard rock.
Yeah, that was they paid like 3 duffel bags out of the helicopter for those songs.
That's a great reference, man.
Dude, I'm also thinking, here's a question for you guys. Jungle, good or bad place to hide your money house?
Terrible place. It's gonna rot. And also, one more nitpick. How is the jungle fortress 12 minutes away from the church? It does not make sense.
Right.
Yeah, it's a really good point.
That's a great point. I was just thinking, like, maybe Lorea, which I don't think we got enough of. We need to kind of, like, hate him more. Maybe hasn't seen or, like, played through, like, any of the Metal Gear Solid movies. Like, I was just, like, looking at this. I'm like, oh, this is like the first level of Metal Gear Solid 3. You got all this cover around you, right?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Like, maybe not the best place.
They even talk shit about it in the movie.
Yeah, they're like, yo, all this shit fucking sucks. And it's just like, again, like, maybe it's like good and expensive security, but it's like, fucking, you're in a jungle, man. Like, you didn't take in the Solid Snake scenario, so I was thinking about that. Silencers. Are silencers like a video game thing or like a real life thing?
What do you mean? Do they exist in real life?
Silencers.
Well,
I like that they didn't use silencers because in the movies they're always like.
Yeah, they're always way too quiet. Silencers in real life are
because I was
really
thinking
loud. But
with the like Pedro Pascal's character Catfish, like when he pops the first guy in the knee, like if they had silencers, they're like, I don't know, right? Or maybe that.
Yeah, but I mean,
like again,
but at the same
I don't
time,
know anything about guns. I was just like, maybe fucking silencers don't exist. Who knows?
Yeah, they do, but it's like they're still loud. They just don't have the reverb as much. So it's like the sound waves don't travel as far, but they're still loud. So like, but in that case, they were like, well, all the guards are just right here in this house, and they're in a fucking jungle. So I think they were probably like, well, we don't really need them because no one else is around. So it's like, who gives a fuck if they hear it? Which is also weird because I thought that too. I was like, this security seems kind of light for to have all that money in one house, but I don't know. Maybe they were just like, well, no one's even going to think about coming here, but that's a really stupid defense. I don't know.
This is like the tutorial level of any Metal Gear Solid
because I'm like,
game.
wouldn't they have like at least one sniper outside? Isn't that pretty standard?
I mean, I guess, but again, it's a fucking jungle, dude. Like,
yeah.
Jungle.
Maybe I'm just underestimating the jungle.
Shit. Like, move out there? Oh, no, wait. It's a jungle.
Oh, wait. Yeah, it's the fucking jungle. Oh, wait. Something moved. Something moved out there? Oh, yeah. It's the fucking jungle.
Wait. Yeah, again, it's a jungle. I don't know. I was just thinking, who knows? Yeah, other than that, I just kind of maybe thought we needed a little bit more Lorea. Like, why couldn't he be outside there? Well, I know he couldn't be outside, but maybe have him doing the execution. It just feels like he was really absent. Was he, like, the real Lorea that they got?
It was unclear.
Right, because it didn't... I don't know, Chuck, what did you think? Because he looked different from, like, the guy that was in the control room, right? That shot Ironhead?
Oh, yeah.
Was that the guy? Because then, like, I thought, like, it was weird. Oscar Isaac's character, Pope, hesitates, and he's like, yeah, we got him. And I didn't know if he was just like
he's dead.
He's dead.
Yeah.
Because I didn't know for sure if that was him. And one, it's okay if it was ambiguous, but it also, it just feels like we needed a better villain, right?
Yeah,
I think it wasn't really about for Pope's character, it was about the kill. But I think the real villain is what Luke touched on earlier, just like the money turned into the villain. The money turned into, like, the only plot device, really, towards the end.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
I think the last thing I was thinking about with this film was, would it be better if they weren't friends? So, like, think about, so, like, they take this whole film and it's except for they're all instead of being best friends, it's like the bank heist from Dark Knight. Like,
Yeah.
any one of them could pop off on any other one, or is that too like?
Well, I mean, I feel like that's a little. I don't know. It's tough because I was gonna say it's a little more generic, but at the same time, a band of friends doing it is also pretty generic. But I kind of liked like when they had the inner squabbling, when they were kind of bitching at each other a little bit. Like that felt like dudes who knew each other for a long time, and they like yelled at each other, but then they were like cool after that. You know, they're like, "Hey, sorry, man." You know, it was like, I kind of like that camaraderie. That was like, oh, it feels like they're actually friends. And if they weren't, if they were just strangers, then that squabbling, they would have fucking sent one of them over the cliff, or, you know, not giving a fuck about any of them. And then there probably would have been the stupid scenes of them drawing guns on each other, you know, and it's like, that shit, it gets annoying.
I fucking love those scenes though, like the four-way draw, where it's just like
the Mexican standoff.
Both of them have guns in their hands. They're just like looking at each other, and it just goes into full like Sergio Leone.
My dick is bigger than yours. All right, that's all those scenes are saying.
I mean, that was a lot of this movie was dick measuring. But...
Oh yeah, but subtler.
Yeah, I don't know. Did you guys have anything else that was kind of...
I think if I had to pick... I think I feel like I'm more of a Catfish type person is kind of who I gravitated towards. I think that I'm more of him.
I think Catfish had the best line with the bad landing line.
Yeah, bad landing. Yeah.
It was simultaneously super cool that he was that chill, and it was like chill and awesome.
Yeah, which... Hey,
yeah.
No. But and that's like how a real pilot would be, because there's no like special forces pilot who hasn't been in a helo crash, you know, so it's like he's definitely been through a helo crash before, so
right.
You know,
you gotta crash like 3 or 4 of them to get your like full helo license.
Yeah, pretty much.
I also read that in my research. So that's a thing.
Another thing, a weird thing that doesn't really have anything to do with anything, but apparently, I don't know if this is 100% true, and I didn't read the whole thing.
It's definitely true.
You're saying that. It was that apparently this movie was first offered, or was supposed to be starring, like, Will Smith and Tom Hanks. So, like,
what?
Not even kidding. Like, yeah, like, I think Tom Hanks was going to be Oscar Isaac's character, and then Will Smith was going to be Ben Affleck's character or something. I don't know. That's just what I read, and I was like, wow, that's a whole different movie.
It sounds terrible.
Yeah.
But I did read that it did get shopped around a lot, and none of the studios picked it up, so that kind of does make sense. That it's
crazy.
Would you guys...
I heard that it was in like development for like a decade, so
yeah,
I could definitely see that iteration being a thing.
Being one of those, yeah.
It does seem like it came from like the Triple Dark 30 era.
Zero Dark 30?
Or that...
Triple.
Yeah. And I could see like some reverb. It's like, well, like they just made Cesario. Like, what is this? This is essentially Cesario, right?
Not as good, yeah. Obviously, that goes without saying.
Well, watch your fucking mouth. But
I will fight you over Sicario.
Sicario's good. Sicario's good.
Yeah. Yeah, the whole time, my takeaway from this is, like, this movie has no business being as good as it is. I thought it was going to be just awful, but I liked it quite a bit. Would you guys be in for a Triple Frontier 2 or a Quadruple Frontier?
Quadruple Frontier, yes.
Well, yeah.
Yes.
Spoilers, they got to go back and get the money.
God damn.
So
yeah,
it
seemed crazy. It seemed crazy. They need to find another planner because without Ben Affleck, they had literally zero plan.
That's true. They were like, "Oh, let's just go in there."
Until the end of the movie, they're like, "Hey, what if we like go and like get that money that we dropped down the big You know? Like, you know what I'm saying? And and they literally, none of them without Ben there, they were fucking aimless.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I don't know who would replace Ben Affleck. Let's leave it on that. Who's our uncle replacement?
Oof.
Give us one right off the dome.
It's got to be a even more out of shape guy.
You know what? You know who I think would be hilarious to get? Get fucking Matt Damon.
That's
This is Ben Affleck's brother. For
my boy Wicked Spot.
Oh my
That'd
god,
be awesome.
That would be great.
This is like, it's like a slam cut from like when Ben Affleck shows up at Matt Damon's house and he's not there.
Yes.
And then like, and 10 years later, like Matt Damon like gets like the fucking email that he died, and he's like those motherfucking those fucking son of a bitches, and he just like goes full on.
Oh yeah, and then Oscar Isaac shows up to Ben Affleck's funeral, and that's where they meet. It's raining. Yes. Oscar Isaac has sunglasses on. I can see it pretty clearly.
Wow.
Yeah,
I don't know if I can beat that. I mean, just as like a stunt casting, like Ben Affleck's dad, like Kurt Russell, would be fun.
Yeah. Okay.
Maybe?
Okay.
Right?
I mean, he would do it.
I mean, he's very available. It seems like.
Yeah.
But he's kind of the same thing, right? He's like that, like the thinker. Like he's like, oh yeah, it's like, hey, there's a couple more loads. What's with all this Chinese magic?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll go Kurt Russell, I guess.
I'll have to copy you and just say Matt Damon. That's too perfect.
Matt Damon's pretty
Boom.
good. Too perfect.
Matt Damon's pretty good. Yeah.
All right, let's get to writing, boys. Quadruple Frontier. It's happening.
Yeah. This is our lottery ticket. You're gonna have not only do you get to take out Larea, but you have a lottery ticket stuck to your fucking boot.
Yeah.
Boom.
There we go.
Triple Frontier. It's on Netflix.
Yeah.
It's very available. Go see it.
Yeah.
It's a great time. What do we got next?
So a movie just came out this last weekend, and it's been doing very well. It was Jordan Peele's newest film, Us. It's his newest horror movie. I've been super excited to see it, and Old Legs and I got to see it together this last weekend. Chuck saw it. So,
yes.
I mean, I feel like this was kind of like, this was pretty hyped up for me. Another OP from Jordan Peele, he's so hot right now. And
Hansel.
He's fucking Hansel. So, I don't know. Let's just say, like, Chuck, what did you, first reactions? Well, let's start with, what was your anticipation for Us?
I was decently hyped for it. It definitely seemed, from the trailer, it seemed real creepy, and I'm into that kind of creepy occult stuff. And I liked it a lot. It was a good horror movie, and it was a fun movie to watch. I was kind of let down on like the creepiness. It wasn't creepy enough for me. It was like Get Out was like, there was so many like, oh fuck moments in Get Out, but there wasn't really. I didn't really have that moment in Us. I loved all the performances. I feel like such like a white guy saying this, but Tim Heidecker and is it Elizabeth Moss?
Elizabeth Moss, yeah.
Oh man.
Yeah.
She's been scaring the shit out of me since she reprised her role as Peg Olson. Like, everything she's in just makes me nervous and uneasy. And yeah, this wasn't an exception. She's incredible. Yeah, go ahead. Keep going.
Yeah, but Lupita and Duke Winston, great performances. I love that it was like there was a lot of homages to horror, and it was just like for me it was more fun than Get Out. Like Get Out is just like kind of a mind fuck and real twist. Yeah, I liked it a lot, and I walked out of the movie theater, and Tommy Wiseau was there. So
yeah, what the fuck was that? Good lord! I was like, wait, what? Is this real life?
Did he look you directly in the eyes, and he's like, "Get out,
get out, get out,
get out,
get out."
Hey, Mark,
get out. No, but we saw it at the Oriental in Milwaukee, a great like old movie palace, and Tommy Wiseau was like there promoting some. It was either like behind the scenes something. It was called Tommy Go to Your Room live. the room live with Tommy Wiseau.
What?
I think it was just like it probably was just like a screening of the room with a live Q&A afterwards, but he was there promoting it, and I paid $18 in Tommy Wiseau merch to have a picture taken with him.
Yeah, that's worth it. Yeah. Wow, that's.
Yeah.
Wow. That was a hard out. Dude. Fuck. I don't know how we come back from that.
Could you imagine like what Tommy Wiseau's tethered being looks like?
He's
like,
probably
considering Tommy Wiseau. Like
he's probably the tether that got loose, and he did the whole trick, the whole mirror, the
1111 guy. Yeah, that's probably that guy. I was like trying to think of like fuck man, like yeah. Go ahead. You go ahead, Luke. You go ahead.
So I was excited to see it. I like Get Out. I'm a big Jordan Peele fan, and any I think Jordan Peele's really good for movies. I mean, I think that kind of goes without saying, but just having a guy who's well known and who's creative and who has these ideas and these original ideas that do well, that's really good for the film industry. So, like, seeing this, I was like, okay, like, it looked creepy, and I was like, well, I'm going to see it, and I was pretty excited for it, and, you know, I think I might have loved it. I'm not really sure. Like, I just kind of, I don't know, I was, like, Get Out, I think, it was super hyped, and I liked that movie.
You were a little lukewarm
but
on
I was a little bit lukewarm on it. Yeah, I thought it was good, but I think I said like I appreciated it more than I liked it. And I think I was just kind of expecting more of the same, but this one I just it really hit me really hard. And there's subtlety for days in it, and I really want to see it again because my mind has kind of just been going in circles about it, but especially like the first act, really the first half, I really liked. It was kind of what I was expecting more or less, but then the longer it went on, the more it was like, oh wow, that's really fucking, to quote The Big Lebowski, that's fucking interesting, man. That's fucking interesting, man.
That's fucking interesting, man.
So
that's fucking.
And Tim Heidecker just had such a fucking great role, man. It was so good to see him in there, and he just fit so well. Oh man, that was great. I loved
that they kept the like psych in the like let me help you out and then psych, because I know that wasn't part of the script. That was not an interaction that Jordan Peele wrote. I guarantee it, because no other tethered like, besides Lupita Nyong'o's character, had any ability to interact with the outside world, and he was the only one that was like, yeah. And it was so good.
It was.
Yeah, he like found a way to just like worm his way into. Yeah, it was incredible. Yeah, I liked this movie. I didn't necessarily love this movie like I did Get Out, and I think it kind of hit that weird point where it wasn't really sure where what it wanted to be, because I didn't think it was necessarily scary, and I thought Get Out was scary, right?
Yeah.
Because it's
definitely
one guy. It's one guy versus
a family,
a bunch of crazy white people, right?
Yeah.
And he's in a place where he doesn't know. He's out of his surroundings. I just thought Get Out was scarier, and this was a thing where it didn't really feel like they were in a bunch of peril. I thought the scariest performance was like the girl, like the track girl. I thought she was like scary as fuck. And then everyone else is kind of like, like whatever. It kind of took away from the performances with having them be like less than human, even though they're not less than human, because it was like a very big point to be like, we are Americans, like that kind of thing. But then again, this is like the Winston Church guy, like literally, like he couldn't talk, it was like, or Winston Duke, I'm sorry. Yeah. And it just kind of took away from it. It's like, wow, they'll fucking figure it out. These guys are idiots, Yeah. Is that, am I...
Well, I think that some of what... Go ahead.
No, I don't know. Am I, like, completely off base there?
Well, I mean, just for... I don't know.
Besides Lupita Nyong'o's character as the red jumpsuit, I didn't think that any of them else were, like, really capable of doing any damage.
Yeah, I mean,
I wasn't scared of them.
Yeah, I mean, she, like... And we find out why at the end,
right,
sort
she's
of.
not one.
Yeah.
Which makes sense.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I mean, it worked for me, even though, like... Yeah, like, I loved Winston Duke's character. He, honestly... one of my favorite characters I've ever seen on film in a while. Like, I fucking love that guy. I was like, he's like goals. Like, fuck, I want to fucking be that guy someday. But it just, I don't know. It worked for me. It was there's so much symbolism in it that I don't even know what all is in there, which is why I really want to see it again. And I think a lot of that plays into it. And I've done a little. I've really thought about it for a long time, because I didn't want to do any research until I gave it a good old think, and I puzzled and puzzled till my puzzler was sore, and then I did a little bit of research just on a couple things, and I was like, okay, that's interesting. It just makes me want to watch it again and look into it some more, because I feel like everything in here is very particular and has a purpose, obviously. So I think that there's just so much subtlety.
Did you rewatch Chud? Did you rewatch Chud?
No.
Chud was one of the VHSs that was in the when it was.
Well, maybe I'll have to. I mean, those had to have been picked for a reason.
There was one that was like, it was really long and I couldn't read it. It was like Chud and then like two other ones.
I think it was The Man with Two Brains.
Yeah. Okay. Was it that one? Was there like Toxic Avenger in there?
I don't know.
I'm trying to like
the right stuff was the one of them.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure I listened to a podcast that said it was The Man with Two Brains.
Okay.
Yeah, because I
haven't seen that. Yeah.
No, I haven't either, but
I've seen Chud. That was the only one. Once I read Chud, I spent the entire time thinking about or trying to figure out what the other ones were, and then I completely missed the Hands Across America thing, and then I didn't get the ending the first time I watched it.
Yeah.
So
yeah, it was a lot to take in, and I feel like
for 35 seconds I did not look at the television that said Hands Across America. So
wow,
it wasn't. And I watched it twice, so I saw it the second time, but.
Yeah, so I feel like there's just so much in there, and I feel like all that stuff means something. So I feel like he's trying to make a point with most of the things in here. So, it's just there's a lot to take away from it, and that's why I want to see it again and just see I don't know, it's just very fascinating to me to look into it, and I don't want to get into too many specifics, but it really worked for me. It was scary, but it wasn't super scary, and I like that it didn't it followed some horror tropes, but at the same time it was a lot of these decisions they're making seem sensible to me, which I always appreciate. And there were a lot of directions I thought it was going, and it definitely didn't go in any of them. But the opening scene really got to me. The television thing, whatever. But then
the cold open was incredible.
The cold open, yeah, that really got me. And so from there I was in, and a lot of little subtlety, the white rabbits, Alice in Wonderland, follow the white rabbit, and then you're into this whole fucking thing. Yep. There's just little things like that. It was fun to pick up on while you're watching it and be like, oh, okay. And yeah, so this is one that Go ahead.
I thought that the intro was just a directorial flex. This is.
It kind of felt
this
like
is what
it.
I'm
Yeah.
capable of.
Yeah.
And,
it was oh shit.
Yeah. And then into, I don't know. I understand where the film went, but it seemed like we're already 25 minutes in, and we start, because the scariest portion of the film was when Winston Duke's character walks outside and he has the bat, and he's like let's fucking rumble, and they do the little hand signs and they all just scatter.
Mm-hmm.
That was fucking. I was like, oh shit, this is. And it was fun too, because the entire audience was oh my god,
yeah,
type deal, which is always really fun with a horror movie. And then it goes into this, and they're already caught at 30 minutes. It's goddamn, this movie's rolling,
right?
And is it either gonna be is it The Strangers? Is it Funny Games? What?
Right.
What is this
yeah,
film?
I definitely felt those too. Yeah.
Because those felt kind of heavy influences at that point.
Mm-hmm.
It turns into something different, but I was fine with it. I just didn't past the point where they leave their original beach house. I didn't think it was really scary at all.
Hmm.
I thought the tension really dropped.
Yeah,
right?
I mean, it definitely didn't get back up to where it was, but again, I really appreciated that choice, because I was all ready for the generic, it's going to be most of the movie trying to keep them out of this house. But then they got in right away, and you're like, oh shit, okay. And then you're just in it, and it was all the choices that they made really worked for me, because I was fully ready for that just kind of generic horror template. And do
you wish? Go ahead, keep going.
I was just saying, I was really, it was refreshing that we didn't stick to it, and it kind of kept going, and it felt like a little bit of a breath of fresh air. But go ahead.
Yeah. Do you wish that they did stay at the Tim Heidecker, Elizabeth Moss house, because that kind of sounded like a lot of fun with, like, let's just go full Home Alone.
Yeah, it did sound fun, but it was
Is
like...
that a better movie? Or do they have to go back to, like, the fucking weird-ass beach?
Yeah, I mean...
Yeah, you gotta go back into the
I suppose.
mirrors.
Yeah, I mean...
I suppose, and it is kind of crazy, like, again, we're talking about synchronicities here, and I'm all for synchronicities, and I'm looking for them every day. I'm looking at the skies. I'm waiting.
Jesus Christ.
Again, yes. Recent MUFON member. My one day membership expired. But anyways, do you not feel like a little bit of tension if you're like, like I just came out of the fucking tethered world and I'm at the beach that I was just at, and I was supposed to be like a slave down there forever? Like, is that not a little weird?
Yeah, but then it also,
I understand that's just like a film thing that you have to do.
Yeah.
Like, that's just like, why are they at the creepy cabin in the woods? Like,
right.
The Evil Dead just doesn't ever work.
Yeah.
Kind of thing. But
yeah, I don't really know, because it's like, I mean, to dance around the spoilers, I guess, it's like...
who gives a fuck about spoilers? I don't care.
Okay, well, yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
So, yeah, so that's like the biggest head scratch or the whole thing. But yeah, like when they go back, I kind of took it as she sort of, I feel like she suppressed most of that until the big confrontation, and then was like, it kind of came back out, you know? And I don't know if that's the right interpretation, but that's kind of how I first thought of it, was like...
Sure.
It kind of felt like it was hidden, and she kind of suppressed it, like a lot like childhood trauma when that shit happens. And
Sure.
You're young enough where you can kind of write it off, and then you live your life, and then, like, because in her head it's like, well, this fucked up shit happened when I was a kid, but I'd like just move past it because whatever.
Right.
And
so this brings us right into the Michael Jackson documentaries, Leaving Neverland.
Sure.
You guys ready to talk about it? Shimon.
I mean, I still haven't seen it.
I haven't seen it either, and I don't really want to.
Well, yeah, when you were telling me about it, I was like, isn't that stuff we all already know? Like, I mean, I'm glad there's a documentary about it, but...
Don't pretend like you fucking think you know it.
Look, I've never been that big of a fan of Michael Jackson for that very reason. So it's like, it's not a huge shocker to me to hear some of that. But
you're being ignorant. You're being ignorant.
Oh, you're being ignorant.
You're being so ignorant.
Hey, you're being ignorant.
Bunch of ignorant individuals. Wow. Well, I just derailed that entire
thank
conversation. Shimon.
But I mean, like, I guess like Hereditary like was super interesting and took a whole different take on it, but still was like horrifying and like really got to me in my opinion.
There's a difference between, it's like a really good horror movie for me. It just ramps it up. There's like a 20-minute little grace period that you have, and then at that point, from there on out, like you are fully in it. You are paying student loans. There's no let up, you know, until it's over, until you paid off that debt. Like
there you go.
It is absolutely at the top, and I didn't really feel it there. There was just some lows, which were fine. That's fine with a horror movie, especially where you're moving locations. It's kind of hard, where you're not just like confined to one place, like a house.
Mm-hmm.
But
because I
feel like it detracted a little bit from it.
Yeah, I
had a question in my head that I was going to ask before I went down the Neverland.
I thought of a point. Do you want to just like sit on it while I say this?
Just go for it.
Okay,
go
so with horror movies, like you said, I feel like a lot of them are almost like shackled to that premise of we're staying in this one spot. Like,
sure.
A bunch of them are like, well, all right, what's the premise? All right, well, they're in this haunted house. Okay, why don't they just leave?
What's wrong with the house?
Right, there's something. Why don't they just book it? Okay, well, we got to keep them trapped there because that's the scary thing, and leaving it is going to be the release of everything. So I really like that, I played around with it, and they were left, and they went to a couple different places, like you said, and one point I like to bring up that I don't know, this doesn't really have anything to do with anything, but it's just a point I like to bring up from time to time. But in the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre, which is a fucking still horrifying to me.
Let's go.
It has one of my favorite horror tropes, which has been used since. But it's when she thinks she escapes, right? She gets out, she runs away, and she finds that gas station. And she's trying to get help, and you think, okay, we're towards the end of the movie, like you said, that 20-minute lull before it really ratchets up, and you're like, okay, they're safe, it's okay, and then you're like, oh fuck, he's in on it, and then she's trapped again. Like, I love that part.
And you're talking like the remake, like the Jessica Biel, like you're just like thinking
about
like her like boobs, just bouncing.
Yeah. Just that was the scariest part of that movie was her acting. But wait, I think we have a laugh track on here.
Take that back. There it is. Jessica Biel's really good in that movie. That might be her best work.
Anyway,
I've seen every episode of The Sinner.
Anyway, us, at least. God, I fucking hate you sometimes. At least. At least us takes chances and goes plays that it doesn't, and like when you take chances, it's like people are gonna like it and not like it, and the people that like it are gonna really like it, and the people that don't like it are just never gonna like it. And so for me, I'm glad it worked. I'm glad that the chances they took really worked for me, and it felt like something different. So yeah, I really enjoyed it, and I'm excited to see it probably a couple more times.
Yes. My final question, do you think, this is to you, both of you, do you think it was too heavy-handed at the end? Do you think that the explanation of everything was too heavy-handed?
Not really, because Lupita's Tethered basically does the plot summary is like immediately. As soon as they get the house, they lay it out all in front of you. And then I actually didn't really see the switch coming. I was actually surprised by it.
Yeah, same.
So I don't think it was very heavy-handed.
I think if that switch didn't come, it would have been heavy-handed, because at the time it was like, all right, here's the monologue, they're talking about everything, all right, blah, 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 okay, yep, just go get her, whatever. But then when it happens, then it's almost like, oh shit, like, then it just takes on a whole nother meaning after that, and I don't know. I don't think it was heavy-handed because I'm not even fully sure exactly what it all means.
Yeah, I feel like Get Out was more of a kind of hitting you over the head with the symbolism and the themes of that movie.
Okay.
And this had I think this movie had a lot more.
Subtlety?
A lot more influences. More subtleties, yeah.
Can I ask one more question? What was, the plan after the takeover? The Hands Across America?
Yeah.
Or is it just getting too...
I still have no idea. I don't.
Yeah, that's one of the things I want to kind of figure out too, because it's where does the symbolism end, and then where does the actual thing begin? Because are you?
I'm all for it.
I don't know enough about Hands Across America to
Okay.
Yeah. It's a
Also, my final question: could you kick your doppelganger's ass? Like, are you confident? Or are you not confident?
well. Does the doppelganger have
like a feral version of yourself? Like, think of like the most anime version of yourself. Like, could you like beat it?
does the anime version of myself have the same physical ailments? Because I have a bad knee, so if my dumbass Tether has a bad knee, I would go for that weak point. But
Well, that's like a great anime thing to do. So you're like already halfway there.
Right, I'm already game planning.
You would like explain to like your doppelganger as you're going for the knee like that you're doing it. You're like,
Right.
oh, ha ha, like. Yeah. So it sounds like you have the upper hand. Me, I don't know. I feel like my doppelganger self could like hide in a closet for like 57 hours straight and just like I wouldn't have a chance.
Yeah, I don't think I could take my doppelganger. Getting hit hurts so much. I don't like getting hit. So.
I know, and I would have so many questions, and like if my doppelganger couldn't talk, like it would just be awkward. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
I
have a feeling like old legs.
tough.
I have a feeling like old legs' Tether would just be like Tim Heidecker's Tether and just be kind of a rascal and just kind of be playing pranks on him.
Yeah.
He would just fucking be playing pranks on you. And
yeah, no, that's
would
true.
he be
That's
just
true.
trying to cast like shitty chaos spells and stuff too?
Right. I mean,
Because you guys haven't even factored in the
like,
magic.
Unplugging my like PS3 controller like after I plug it into charge.
Right.
Just being like, God damn,
Exactly.
what's going on here? Like,
Exactly.
it's fucking shit like that. Like, I don't know. It's a great point. I'm glad you bring that up. My doppelganger would probably be a dick.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying. And I know my doppelganger would be a fucking pussy because he's modeled after me. So I could definitely take it.
You guys would end up getting like a coffee together and like really like hitting it off, like having a connection.
would.
Like,
Yeah.
Like what do you think? Like if you like.
Do you ever think like if we like grew up in like different situations, do you think we'd like both end up in this coffee shop here? I don't know. I'll let you decide if that was me or my doppelganger
I looked
talking.
up at the stars and I was thinking that somebody else is looking.
You're
up
looking
at
at those same
stars.
stars.
At those same stars.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's all I got. Us. Go see it. I love that. My final verdict. Maybe it sounds like I hated it. I didn't hate it. I love that Jordan Peele is doing. He's essentially doing art house movies for like the masses.
Yeah, art house movies that are entertaining.
Yes.
So is he the new Quentin Tarantino?
And this is no. Also, no, that's different. It's different.
It's different.
I don't think Quentin Tarantino has done an art house film, but it's a maybe. But I don't want to get into that right now. But
Okay, yeah, I'm sorry.
It's essentially like I've seen like this is not the first horror film or quote unquote horror film that we've seen that is an art house film, and I would love for more to get to the general masses. So that's super cool. So if we see more films like this, that's awesome. Because like if this film were just to be released by like some fucking Joe Schmo,
Yeah.
like I would be like probably like holy fucking shit, this is fucking awesome. Like that's crazy. But it happens that it is the sequel to Get Out, and it's a crazy super famous director. So yeah, so it has all these fucking expectations that are not really warranted, but they are. So that's just what it is. But yeah, I'm all for it. I want more films like this.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep. 100%.
Do you agree?
Yeah. No doubt about it.
Not perfect, but hey.
Like, yeah, no, this is the kind of stuff where it's like, this is what keeps shit like that going. And I think that, like, you've touched on something with, like, I don't know. I get so sick of people just, like, hating on shit without having any reason to, or even taking a step back and being like, well, I can, like, appreciate what other people liked about it, or, like, it just didn't work for me. But, like, you can't say, like, I don't think you can say, like, Us is objectively a bad movie. I mean, just the way it was filmed and the production and the performances and the score and the editing. I mean, like, just, I think base level, the worst you can say is that you just didn't like the direction of it, of the story and where it went, you know, so. But, no, you're absolutely right. I think that if we could get more, like I just want to see more. It's just hungry for me to see the next, like, young filmmaker to come out and start making some fucking OP, you know? Fuck. I'm ready. Keep them coming. That's going to be us. Quadruple Frontier. Art house for the masses.
An art house take on Quadruple Frontier.
Dude, I'm all in.
There's like 10 lines of dialogue. One of them is bad landing.
That's a bad landing.
Another bad landing.
Another bad
landing.
Another bad landing. Well, we got to get Matt Damon attached. So we know Mr. Damon. We know you listen to this. So, you know, just reach out to us. You know who to get in contact. We'll
think you're fucking better than me.
We'll start on some drafts.
We'll send you the script.
Yeah, don't worry about it. You know what? What if instead of one guy they went and got Matt Damon? What if they got Matt Damon and Mark Wahlberg? They went out and got both of them.
I'm out then.
No Marky Mark.
No.
That's too much.
Too much.
Because Mark would only do it if Peter Berg directed it. I think that's in his contract now. He'll only do Peter Berg.
You gotta watch The Departed again.
The Departed.
Mark Wahlberg gives
he's so
a top
good.
10 performance of the last 20 years.
Oh, it's so good.
It's up there. It should have won. It's up there. Not to derail everything again, but it's up there with Hannibal Lecter.
It's so
I can't remember a character that's on the scene for less time but has just oh my god,
I'm the guy who does his job.
Quoted that, Luke.
Constantly. So, I'm the guy who does his job. You must be the other guy.
You must be the other guy.
Man.
Incredible. Fucking incredible.
So good.
Well, yeah, so next week we may or may not have a little Pet Cemetery action here going on.
Nice.
Some good shit there. I'm excited. This is where it starts up. Right here. This is where we get into it. This is summer movies into
boom.
The little sprinkles here and there. You got a little Oscar sprinkle. You got a little cult little something darling sprinkle. Little something here and there. I like it. And I'm excited because I'm sick of watching
Serenity.
Anime I've already seen.
Oh man. Yeah.
Even though I'm about to watch Evangelion again.
Yeah.
When it comes to Netflix.
Boom.
So, yeah.
There we
Definitely
go.
gonna try to get my girlfriend to watch Evangelion or Evangelion. Yeah.
Good
luck.
We'll see if it happens. Yeah, so this has been great. It's been fun.
Yeah, thanks so much for coming on. So, the first episode we did with our resident uncle was, I believe it was our sci-fi episode. It was way back. It was like our fourth or fifth.
Arrival.
It was Arrival, right? And then we just talked about sci-fi. That was way back. So, give it a listen. I'm sorry about the quality, but you know it doesn't get much better though to get the fucking resident uncle on the show.
If you're gonna be a dick and complain about our
quality of our
you card,
Yeah.
pull it out of your fucking pocket, and go to our Patreon page.
There you go.
And donate. You can donate $1. You can donate $2. You can donate $3. You can donate $1 million, in which Luke and I, we will perform our
reenactment.
Our reenactment of Luke.
Are you ready?
You ready?
3.
Con Air.
No. It's Face Off.
Oh, is it Face Off?
Well, we might be we'll do both.
Either or. For $1 million, we'll fucking do it.
We'll do both
Con
back
Air
to
and
back.
Face Off.
One night
Naked.
only. Naked.
Yeah.
One night only on my
Naked.
couch.
That is our $1 million promise. Okay, you can sit there. You can do whatever you want. You can. I don't care. Like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, most of that's going to be going into getting Nick Cage to come out, just to be there as well. Because we both said, like, I know for sure I'm not going to do a performance unless Nick Cage is there coaching me through it, you know.
Can Nick Cage play all the other characters besides Nick Cage and John Travolta?
Yeah.
So that's our other, like...
That's our next tier.
That's our other thing. That's the other thing that we have. It's a little bit on wraps right now, but we're currently writing an Animal Man script that has no CGI. That is just Nick Cage just doing all the animals, just
all
like,
the animals
like,
that he morphs into.
I'm a lion, like,
yeah,
like,
it's gonna be
like
so
that
good.
Thing.
Like that we already know that's a hit. Like that's our bell cow. Like we know that's gonna make money.
That's cool.
So,
we have multiple offers on that.
Many,
that is exciting.
So I mean, if that's another tier of the Patreon, if it's $250,000 a month, and then we'll put you down as an assistant, secondary producer on it. So I mean, I think that's worth it to me.
I mean, yeah. I mean, you're gonna be getting a lot of coffee from me, but you know, that's a great get your foot in the door. Okay,
right?
What did
exactly.
they say?
Yeah, it's all about who you know. But anyway, so if you wanna, we'll put the link for the Patreon in the description below. But you can check me out on Twitter at LukeLarson89. Check this podcast out on Twitter at the L Squared Podcast, on Facebook at the L2 Podcast. We're on SoundCloud. We're on YouTube. Old Legs is dark.
Yes.
What about you, Chuck? Where can the people find you?
Well, first off, I thought that Patreon was just like a bit. I didn't know it was a real thing. So
no, it's a real thing.
Oh, it's a real thing.
I'll definitely go check it out. For sure. I'll throw you guys a
well, thanks.
It's 100% gonna be a real thing after this episode.
Right. Now that we have a patron, it's gonna be real, Chuck. So
all right, yeah. First ever patron.
It's perfect.
Right. You can find me at Rugby Chuck on Twitter.
He's a great follow.
Yeah, good follow.
Yeah.
Or if you want to go see that picture of me and Tommy Wiseau, I think I'm...
To know that he's legit.
Yeah, that was really eye-opening for me.
Yeah, I think it's just Chuck.Feuerbach at
he's in it.
Instagram.com.
He's really in it.
It's really him.
I'm really in it.
That's really him.
And yeah, look out for our new Instagram feed that's coming in hot. We have some good ideas. I sent Luke a couple fillers of our Instagram, so he just needs to go ahead and get in touch with our
producer.
Our producer, and we'll be on it.
We'll be on that. So, all right, thanks for coming on, Chuck. Thanks for listening.
No problem.
We can't wait 3 years next time to get you back on. We need to get you back on more often.
Let me come back for Godzilla King of Monsters.
That'd be a good one.
That's my most hyped summer movie. So.
Okay. You're on the calendar.
Sweet.
All right. Till next time, loyal listeners. Peace.
Peace.